One of the things that most of us, I think, if we're honest, struggle with is patience. The reason I know that, because I hear that in confessional all the time. Patience. It's hard for us to be patient. And the reason why it's hard for us to be patient, because there's suffering involved. We don't like to suffer. And that's why we struggle with impatience, which is pride. In today's first reading from the book of Hebrews, this particular author, he's an unknown author, he or she's an unknown author, but anyway, the book of Hebrews is being written to the early Christians who are going through some really hard times. They're being persecuted. False teachers are starting to arrive. Misinformation, sound familiar? Coming into the scene, and they're getting confused. They're being persecuted. They're being singled out, and they're beginning to lose hope. And the temptation when we're suffering is to want to go back to Egypt. Remember when they were released, God freed the people of Israel from 400 years of slavery, misery. Sometimes we forget how bad it was before God came into our lives. And when we're going through hard times, we're going through that desert journey of life, and we're going through some real hard things, it's tempting to want to revert to our old lives, to go back to the slavery of the flesh, to live in fear. And that's what the early Christians were going through, this persecution. And I love this line here where the author says to them, he's using Abraham as an example. And so after patient waiting, Abraham obtained the promise. St. Teresa of Avila, one of my favorite quotes from her is she says, "Patience acquires everything." She has a great, I have a prayer of hers on my refrigerator. I meant to bring it with me. It's something I look at every day because I open that fridge, I look at that. And it basically starts off with, let nothing disturb you. Let nothing disturb you. Do not be afraid. Do not be anxious. And I don't remember all it says, but she goes on to say everything's passing. And I think that's what scares people. We look at our world today. We look at our nation. We look what's going on. And it just seems like things are changing so rapidly. The things that we used to know, the normal has changed. And we don't even know if we're going to be able, what lies ahead. And sometimes that can be frightening to us. And it may even seem like God is not with us, especially the Christians. When you're being persecuted for what they believed in, you start kind of wondering, is this worth it, all this suffering? And that's why the author says to them, through patient waiting. In other words, he's basically saying to them, hang in there. Hold on to your faith in God. Because things may be changing around us like crazy, which they are, but there's one thing that does not change, and that's God. God is the same yesterday, today, and forever. He is the one constant rock in my life that I can lean on and know that no come hell or high water, God is with me. And God will see me through this. A lot of you here, you're older than me, so you could probably write a lot more books than I can, but I've lived long enough to know. I can look back on my life, and you can too, of how many times, if it wasn't for your faith in God, you kind of wonder, would you have gotten through the things you've gotten through? So if God's gotten you through all these things he's gotten you through, why would he give up on you now? But that's what the enemy does. He comes to us and he puts these thoughts in our heads like, where's your God now? Look at yourself. Look at this country just coming undone. Look at all this. Where's your God in all this? He's right in the middle of it. And he's in full control. He's just letting it all play out. Go back to his life. Think about what those 12 men must have felt when they followed him, when they came to arrest him. Look at their life. They probably asked the same question. Everything we put our hope into, it's suddenly changing. And what looked like is all going to come to an end. All their hopes and dreams were shattered. 3 days later, boom, I'm back. You can't keep a good man down. And that's usually how God works. He usually lets us go through this waiting, and we're wondering, where's God? Why doesn't he answer me? Can he see what I'm going through? Of course he can. He's right there with you. We just have to turn around and see he's right there. You ever heard of the saying that God is 11th hour God? That's true. God's that 11th hour God. It's always darkest before the dawn. You ever heard that saying? It's another great saying. It's always the darkest before the dawn. God allowed everything to happen to his son. All those soldiers, those religious leaders that had him crucified, they were just pieces of chess. They're just pawns. They're all part of the plan. This persecution the early church was going through, and the persecution people are going through today for standing up for what is right and true, right? We see this happening today right in front of our faces. People being canceled on Twitter, Facebook, whatever else, because of their beliefs, what they believe in. We see it. It's playing out front of our eyes. Coming to a place near you sometime soon. So hang on. But here's the thing. Who cares? It's all part of God's plan. Look how long Abraham waited and Sarah. They were old people. I think they were in their 90s, late 80s before they had their son. Remember, God promised him that he would have descendants. Now put yourself in their shoes. You know, they're getting around the 30s and their 40s, and they're like, yeah, you promised. And they get into the 50s and 60s. Woo, now we're going to see it's over. I guess it's over now. Can't have babies. And then when do they have it? The 11th hour God. Wham, there he is. And they have Isaac. And from there, all the descendants, we are considered descendants of Abraham. Patience acquires everything. Where does God ask you to be patient? To be patient, starting with yourself. Be patient with yourself, with your own weaknesses. Be patient with the guy or girl you're married to. I have to laugh at that. Be patient with the people. Usually it's the people we live with, right? Father, Knecht drives me crazy. Just kidding. I drive him crazy too. Patience. Why is God letting us go through this? Because he's trying to teach us what love looks like. St. Paul says love is patient. Love is kind. When he has you wait for him, it's not because he likes to watch you squirm. He's just teaching you what it means to love. Love is willing to wait on its beloved. Love is willing to suffer. And that's why he has us wait. He's teaching us what true love is. The essence of love, there's going to be some sacrifice in it, right? You mamas here, you know about all the sacrifices, right? But you make those sacrifices because you love those kids. You don't always like them, but you love them. And you're willing to make sacrifices. And so wherever God has you waiting right now, as a nation, as a church, as a family, as an individual, wherever he has you right now, just thank him. That's the key to get through long periods of waiting. Just Lord, I don't understand what you're doing. I don't know why I'm going through this, but Lord, I trust in you, right? Where's my Jesus, I trust in you? What's somewhere here? Jesus, I trust in you. I trust in you that you are here with me. I know you hear me, and you're not only going to answer me, but you are answering me right now, because sometimes your answer to my prayer is not right now. Sound familiar, parents? Not right now. You're not ready. I'm with you. I'm always going to be with you, even when it feels like I'm not, and we'll get through it. Please stand.